I am a 32-year-old software engineer living in Seattle with a comfortable life and a promising future ahead of me. 3 years of dating, Amanda culminated in a proposal 6 months ago, and our wedding was just around the corner. My brother Jake and I have always been close with only 2 years between us, and he was heavily involved in our wedding planning. Everything seemed perfect, my career was soaring, and I was about to marry the woman of my dreams. Then one night I accidentally glimpsed a text message on Amanda's phone that shattered my entire world. We need to talk about the baby. Before I tell you what happened next, let me know where you are watching from, and hit subscribe if you have ever been betrayed. My story will leave you speechless. Life had been good to me. Working as a senior developer at Nexus Tech, a promising startup in downtown Seattle, I had built a reputation for solving complex problems and leading successful projects. My six-figure salary allowed me to purchase a spacious two-bedroom apartment with a view of the city skyline where Amanda and I had been living together for the past year and a half. My family has always been tight-knit, born to Hispanic-American parents who prioritized education and family values. I grew up in a household where Sunday dinners were mandatory and holidays meant extended family gatherings with too much food and loud conversations. My father, Robert, worked as a high school principal, while my mother, Elena, taught elementary school, instilling in us the importance of education and hard work. Jake, my younger brother, by 2 years, had always been the favorite. While I was the responsible one who followed rules and met expectations, Jake was the charming one who could talk his way out of trouble. Growing up, he would break curfew and somehow end up with a later bedtime or fail a test and somehow convince our parents it was the teacher's fault. Despite the occasional frustration this caused, we remained close. When our grandfather passed away 5 years ago, Jake was the one who helped me through the grief, spending nights talking about our favorite memories of Abuelo. I met Amanda at my college friend Mike's wedding 3 years ago. She was a bridesmaid, tall with auburn hair, and a laugh that caught my attention from across the room. During the reception, we bonded over our shared love of indie films and fantasy novels. That night ended with exchanging phone numbers and a promise to meet for coffee. Our relationship developed naturally. Coffee dates turned into dinner dates, which evolved into weekend getaways. 6 months in, we took our first major trip together to Hawaii, spending a week exploring volcanic beaches and watching sunsets that painted the sky in shades of orange and purple. The memory of Amanda's face illuminated by tiki torches, as we enjoyed a beachside dinner, remains one of my favorites. After a year and a half of dating, we decided to move in together. Combining our lives meant compromising on decor choices and adjusting to each other's habits, but waking up next to Amanda every morning made it all worthwhile. Our routine of Sunday morning pancakes and coffee on the balcony became my favorite part of the week. The proposal happened at Canlis, her favorite restaurant in Seattle. With the city lights twinkling below us, and after a 5-course meal, I got down on one knee and presented her with a platinum ring, featuring a diamond that had belonged to my grandmother. Amanda's eyes filled with tears as she said yes, and the entire restaurant erupted in applause. That night felt like the beginning of everything we had been working toward. Plans for our wedding quickly took shape. We booked a venue on the Seattle waterfront, a picturesque location with the Olympic Mountains as a backdrop. Amanda chose a dress. We selected a catering menu featuring both American and Hispanic dishes to honor my heritage, and sent out invitations to 150 guests. Jake volunteered to help with wedding preparations, offering to coordinate with vendors and assist with logistics. I was grateful for his support, especially since my work schedule had become increasingly demanding with a new project launch. He and Amanda began spending more time together reviewing venue details and discussing decorations. At the time, I appreciated their initiative and the way they seemed to genuinely enjoy working together. Looking back, I should have noticed the warning signs. Amanda became more distant, often glued to her phone and stepping outside to take calls. When I asked who she was texting so late at night, she would say just friends or wedding stuff without elaborating. She began going out more frequently without me claiming girls' nights or meetings with the wedding planner. Jake started dropping by our apartment, unannounced, particularly when I was away on business trips, just checking on things he would say when I questioned why he had been there. Once I returned home early from a conference in Portland, to find them huddled over wedding magazines at our kitchen table, jumping apart when I walked in. I dismissed the momentary awkwardness as surprise at my early arrival. Thomas, a close friend since college, tried to warn me in his own way. "Are you sure Amanda and Jake are just planning your wedding?" he asked during a basketball game one evening. When I pressed him for details, he backpedaled, saying he was probably overthinking things. I chose to believe in the two people I trusted most, convincing myself that Thomas was just being overprotective. Our engagement party was an extravagant affair at Morton's Steakhouse, with friends and family gathering to celebrate our upcoming union. Jake gave a speech about how happy he was to see his brother finding love, while Amanda looked uncomfortable the entire time, barely touching her champagne. Later that night, I noticed them having an intense conversation in a corner, but they quickly separated when I approached. 2 weeks before the wedding, I noticed Amanda frequently rushing to the bathroom in the mornings. When I expressed concern, she attributed it to wedding stress and nerves. I brought her ginger tea and crackers, trying to ease her discomfort, completely unaware of the true cause of her symptoms. The truth revealed itself on a Tuesday evening. Amanda had left her phone on the coffee table while she showered, and a notification lit up the screen, a text from Jake reading, "We need to talk about the baby. This cannot wait any longer." My hands trembled as I picked up the phone, unable to process what I was seeing. When Amanda emerged from the bathroom wrapped in a towel, she found me sitting motionless, her phone in my hand. "What is this about a baby?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Her face drained of color. "Jesus, I can explain. It is not what you think." "Then what is it?" "Because it looks like my brother is texting my fiancée about a baby 2 weeks before our wedding." Amanda fumbled for words, claiming Jake was helping her plan a surprise baby-themed gift for my cousin's upcoming shower. The explanation was flimsy, and her voice quavered as she spoke. I knew she was lying. The next day, I called in sick to work and followed Amanda when she left the apartment. She drove to a small cafe 15 minutes from our home where Jake was already waiting. Hidden behind a newspaper at a corner table, I watched as they engaged in an intense conversation, their heads close together, fingers occasionally intertwining on the table. Then I saw Jake place his hand gently on her stomach, and Amanda did not push it away. I approached their table, my footsteps heavy on the wooden floor. They looked up simultaneously, their expressions shifting from shock to guilt in an instant. "How long?" I asked, my voice surprisingly steady despite the hurricane of emotions inside me. Amanda began to cry, mascara tracking down her cheeks. Jake stood up, placing himself slightly in front of her in a protective stance that made my blood boil. "Jesus, bro, let us talk somewhere private," he suggested, gesturing toward the door. "No, I want answers now. How long have you two been betraying me?" The cafe had gone silent, other patrons pretending not to stare while witnessing the unfolding drama. Through tears and broken sentences, the truth emerged. Their affair had been going on for 8 months, beginning when Jake started helping with wedding preparations. What started as innocent meetings about venue options and flower arrangements evolved into late-night conversations, emotional intimacy, and eventually physical betrayal. "It just happened," Jake said, a phrase so dismissive of my pain that I almost lunged across the table at him. "We never meant for this to go so far." Amanda confirmed she was 10 weeks pregnant, and given the timing, there was no question about paternity. Jake was going to be a father not to his future niece or nephew, but to his brother's fiancée's child. "I still love you," Amanda insisted, reaching for my hand across the table. I pulled away as if her touch would burn me. "It was a mistake. A terrible mistake. We can work through this." Jake suggested we could figure something out as a family. Perhaps I could forgive them, he implied, and we could all move forward together somehow. The audacity of his suggestion made the room spin around me. I left the cafe without another word, driving aimlessly through Seattle's rain-soaked streets for hours. That evening, I made the necessary calls to cancel venue reservations, the catering order, the DJ. Each conversation was a fresh wound as I explained that the wedding was off, without providing details that would reveal my humiliation. When I finally returned home, Amanda was packing her things, tears streaming down her face. She tried once more to explain, to justify the unjustifiable. I stood silently in the doorway of our bedroom. Now just my bedroom. watching as she removed herself from my life, taking both her possessions and my trust in humanity. The following days passed in a blur of sleepless nights and mindless television. I took a leave of absence from work, unable to focus on code or attend meetings without breaking down. My apartment, once filled with laughter and love, became a shrine to betrayal, with empty spaces on shelves where Amanda's books had been, and hooks on the wall where her coats once hung. Jake attempted to contact me multiple times, leaving voicemails that ranged from apologetic to defensive. "We did not set out to hurt you," he said in one message. "These things just happen sometimes between people." His casualization of their betrayal only deepened my pain. Thomas came by with beer and pizza, finally admitting he had suspected something for months. He had seen Jake and Amanda at a restaurant across town holding hands when they thought no one was watching. "I wanted to tell you, man, but I did not have proof and I was afraid you would not believe me." He was right. I probably would have dismissed his concerns, choosing to trust the two people who were methodically destroying me behind my back. Night after night, I sat on my balcony, drinking whiskey straight from the bottle, replaying every interaction, looking for signs I had missed. Had Amanda ever really loved me? Was I just a stepping stone on her path to Jake? How could my own brother, my blood, betray me so completely? After 3 weeks of self-destruction, I finally made an appointment with a therapist. Doctor. Marshall listened without judgment as I poured out my story, then gently suggested I focus on rebuilding my life rather than understanding the incomprehensible actions of others. I returned to work, throwing myself into coding as a distraction from the wreckage of my personal life. The call from my mother came exactly 1 month after the cafe confrontation. "We need to have a family meeting," she said, her voice strained with forced cheerfulness. "Come for dinner on Sunday. Everyone will be there." I agreed, believing this would be an opportunity for my family to rally around me to help me process the betrayal and begin healing. How naive I was. When I arrived at my parents' suburban home, the familiar scent of my mother's enchiladas filled the air. I stepped into the living room and froze. Jake and Amanda were sitting side by side on the sofa, her slightly rounded belly now visible beneath her flowing top. My mother rushed to hug me while my father stood stoically by the fireplace, arms crossed over his chest. "What is this?" I asked, already backing toward the door. "Please sit down, mijo," my mother pleaded, tears already forming in her eyes. "We need to talk as a family." I remained standing, my eyes fixed on the couple on the sofa. Jake had his arm around Amanda's shoulders, his thumb absently stroking her upper arm in a gesture of intimacy that made me physically ill. "Jesus," my father began, his voice carrying the authoritative tone he used when breaking up fights in the school hallways. "What has happened is unfortunate, but we need to move forward as a family." "Move forward," I repeated incredulously. My mother dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. "The baby is coming in 6 months. It will be our first grandchild. And we want this child to have a complete family, to know all of us. We are asking you to find it in your heart. To forgive," my father continued. "For the sake of family unity. For the sake of the innocent child who did not ask to be born into this situation." I looked around the room at the faces of people I had loved my entire life and saw only strangers. My mother, who had taught me about integrity and honesty, was now asking me to accept the ultimate betrayal. My father, who had lectured us about respecting others, was suggesting I swallow my pain and dignity for family unity. Amanda spoke next, her voice soft and practiced. "I know we hurt you deeply, Jesus. What Jake and I did was wrong, and we are both truly sorry. But we believe that with time and understanding, we can all move past this and be a family again." Jake nodded in agreement. "Bro, we never meant for this to happen. But now that it has, we have to deal with it together. The baby deserves to have its uncle in its life." Then came the revelation that shattered what little composure I had left. My grandmother, sitting quietly in the corner until now, mentioned that she had known about the affair for weeks before I discovered it. "I saw them at Westlake Center holding hands and kissing," she admitted. "But I did not want to be the one to break up the family." One by one, I realized they had all known. My parents, my grandmother, even my cousin Lucia. And no one had told me. They had protected Jake and Amanda while leaving me to walk blindly into heartbreak. They had chosen them over me long before this family meeting. Something broke inside me then, a dam of restraint and civility crumbling under the weight of compound betrayals. Years of being the responsible one, the one who always did the right thing, the one who forgave Jake's transgressions and supported him regardless. All of it collapsed in a moment of clarity. You want me to forgive them, my voice rose with each word. You want me to sit at Thanksgiving dinner and pass the gravy to the brother who slept with my fiancée. You expect me to be a doting uncle to the child that should have been mine. My mother flinched at my tone, but I could not stop. The torrent of rage and pain. Jake has been given a pass his entire life. When he wrecked Dad's car, when he dropped out of college, when he could not hold a job, everyone made excuses for him. And now, after he has taken the one thing in my life that mattered most, you are all still protecting him. I turned to Amanda, who had the decency to look ashamed. And you. I gave you everything. My love, my trust, my future. And you threw it away for what? For Jake. The eternal screw-up who has never committed to anything in his life. My father stepped forward, his face reddening. That is enough, Jesus. We understand you are hurt, but this hostility solves nothing. We are asking you to be the bigger person here. Those words, be the bigger person, ignited a final clarifying fury. I had been the bigger person my entire life. And where had it gotten me? You are not asking me to be the bigger person, I said, my voice suddenly calm. You are asking me to be a doormat. You are asking me to have no self-respect. And I am done. I looked at each of them in turn. The family that had raised me but failed to protect me when it mattered most. You can all go fuck yourselves. I am done with all of you. The gasps and protests faded behind me as I walked out the front door. I drove through the night, the radio off, listening only to the rhythm of windshield wipers and my own ragged breathing. Somewhere around 3 a.m, parked at a scenic overlook above the city, I made a decision that would change everything I needed to leave Seattle. I needed to disappear from their lives, as completely as they had erased my pain from their moral calculations. Over the next 2 weeks, I secretly prepared for my departure. I liquidated my savings account and applied for remote positions at tech companies across the country. I found a job at a Denver-based firm offering a 20% salary increase and a senior development role. I gave notice at Nexus Tech, citing personal reasons for my departure. I told no one of my plans, not even Thomas. On my last night in the apartment, I packed my essential belongings, donated everything else to Goodwill, and left my keys with the building manager. As dawn broke over the Seattle skyline, I drove east on Interstate 90. My entire life condensed into a sedan and a trailer, leaving behind no forwarding address or contact information. 6 months after my exodus, I had established a new life in Denver. My apartment in Lodo, the city's trendy lower downtown district, was sparsely furnished but felt more like home than anywhere I had lived since the betrayal. The Rocky Mountains provided a dramatic backdrop to my daily life, a constant reminder of the vastness of the world beyond my personal tragedy. My new position as lead developer at Altitude Software gave me the fresh start I needed professionally. The team welcomed me without knowing my backstory, accepting the vague explanation of needing a change of scenery without pressing for details. My colleague David became a casual friend, inviting me to basketball games and hiking trips that helped me acclimate to Colorado life. My neighbor Maria, a flight attendant who traveled frequently, kept an eye on my apartment during my occasional business trips and introduced me to Denver's vibrant restaurant scene. These new connections knew nothing of Amanda, Jake, or the family I had left behind, allowing me to present an unbroken version of myself to the world. Weekly therapy sessions with Dr. Chen helped me process the layers of betrayal and gradually release the anger that had initially fueled my relocation. Forgiveness is not about excusing their actions, she reminded me during a particularly difficult session. It is about freeing yourself from the burden of resentment. And it does not require reconciliation. This distinction, that I could eventually forgive without allowing toxic people back into my life, was revolutionary. I began to see my departure not as running away, but as running toward a healthier future. 3 months into my Denver life, I joined a cooking class at a local community center, seeking to expand both my culinary skills and social circle. There, I met Sarah, a kindergarten teacher with a quick wit and kind eyes. Our friendship developed organically over chopped vegetables and shared recipes. Unlike the whirlwind romance with Amanda, this connection grew slowly, rooted in genuine conversation and mutual respect. I focused on rebuilding my sense of self outside the roles I had previously occupied: devoted son, reliable brother, loving fiancé. I discovered a passion for mountain biking, pushing myself along challenging trails that required total concentration, leaving no mental space for dwelling on the past. I joined a local coding boot camp as a mentor, finding fulfillment in guiding others through the challenges I had mastered years ago. The first contact from my old life came 4 months after my departure. A text message from my mother: "We miss you. Jake and Amanda had a baby boy last week. They named him Robert after your father. Please come home. The family is not complete without you." The manipulation was obvious, using my newborn nephew as emotional leverage. I responded simply, "I am glad everyone is healthy. I am not coming back." Then I blocked her number along with every other family contact. Through social media, which I rarely checked, I learned that Jake and Amanda had married in a small ceremony at City Hall, their hasty union, a stark contrast to the elaborate wedding we had planned. The comment section overflowed with congratulations, with no mention of the relationship's destructive beginnings. I closed my accounts that day, severing another tie to my previous life. With time and distance, I found strength I never knew I possessed. The man who had pleaded with Amanda for explanations in that cafe had been replaced by someone who valued himself enough to walk away from anything that diminished him. I completed a half marathon, each mile a testament to my resilience. I received a performance bonus at work, recognition of the focus and creativity that flourished in my new environment. During a weekend trip to the mountains, standing at 11,000 feet with the world spread before me, I experienced a moment of perfect clarity. The pain would always be part of my story, but it no longer defined me. I had built something new from the ashes of betrayal. Not despite the hurt, but because of what it had taught me about my own capacity for renewal. On the 1-year anniversary of my discovery of the affair, my father emailed me through my work address, which they had apparently tracked down. "It is time to put this behind us," he wrote. "Your mother cries every holiday. Jake asks about you constantly. Families forgive, son. That is what we do." What struck me most was the absence of any acknowledgement that they had contributed to my pain. There was no recognition that their request for reconciliation should come with genuine remorse for their role in the betrayal. They wanted healing on their terms, without doing the work that true healing required. I arranged a video call with them, not to reconcile, but to clearly articulate my boundaries. Seeing their faces on screen after so long was jarring. My mother had aged visibly, while my father's expression carried the same expectation that I would eventually conform to family expectations as I always had before. "I am not coming back," I told them calmly. "I have built a life here that brings me peace. I wish you all well, but I cannot and will not be part of a family that values harmony over honesty and comfort over integrity." My mother wept, my father argued, but I remained firm. When the call ended, I felt no guilt, only the lightness that comes with speaking your truth after years of silence. Sarah and I began dating officially, our relationship built on a foundation of radical honesty. I had shared my full story with her early on, and her response, anger on my behalf rather than pity, confirmed she was someone who understood true loyalty. "You deserved better from all of them," she said, simply validating what I had needed to hear all along. The greatest lesson I learned through this ordeal was not about betrayal, but about self-worth. For years, I had measured my value by what I could give to others: my loyalty to family, my devotion to Amanda, my reliability as the good son. I had never considered whether I was receiving the same care I so freely gave. Now I understand that love without respect is meaningless, and family is defined not by blood but by actions. I have created boundaries that protect my peace and surrounded myself with people who honor them. The forgiveness I have found is not for Jake or Amanda or my enabling parents. It is for myself, for believing I deserved so little for so long. Have you ever had to walk away from toxic family members to save yourself, or have you stayed and regretted it? Let me know in the comments below, and if this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more stories of healing and self-discovery. Remember that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is put yourself first. Thank you for listening, and I hope my journey helps someone else find the courage to demand the respect they deserve.